I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as I can because I know we're all short on time. I'm not going to mention prices because they tend to fluctuate a lot, especially during the holidays, but I am going to include links to whatever I can in the description of this video. If you're a quilter shopping for a fellow quilter, you might have seen most of these things before, but I think I've included a few things that will surprise you. If you have any gift recommendations, please leave them in the comments section, and I'll add links to the video description for future viewers. If you're a non-quilter shopping for your favorite quilter, you might have to do a little bit of investigating to make sure that your quilter doesn't already have whichever gift you've got your eye on. And everyone needs to make sure to pay attention to shipping dates here. I have a couple recommendations from small businesses that might ship slower than your average Amazon package, so try to shop early if you can. Many of the items on this list are things that I don't actually own, but I would really like to receive them as a gift, so I can't guarantee quality. You'll have to do a little bit of your own research in the review sections. I'm going to start this list off with these really pretty rulers from Feral Notions. They come in a couple different sizes and a couple different finishes. So this is the iridescent. It's my very favorite. I love that. There's confetti, so fun. And then a more luxurious golden one, gold flakes in the resin. It says in the description that the lines are laser cut engraved into the acrylic so they won't wash away, and non-slip dots will be provided with every ruler. So that's excellent. I specifically have my eye on the 6.5 or the 6x12 and the 4.5 inch square up ruler. So this one also has the same 3 finishes that you can choose between. Next up, I want to mention the glow ruler, which is really cool. It should be really great to use in a little bit lower light conditions, or if you have a hard time seeing the lines on your regular rulers, this is a great option, and I think it comes in a couple different colors. Next up is this stripology ruler, and this one is really great if your quilter does a lot of strips. I think they have 1/2 inch increments. Yeah, on this one. I have a really cheap Joann's one that I feel like is going to snap apart at any moment, but the stripology one, while a little bit more expensive, has a lot of fans in the quilting community, and I especially like this larger size. There's some smaller ones, but I feel like the larger one would be more useful, and I like that they include a demo right here on the website if you're confused about how it works. Another ruler idea is to find out your quilter's favorite rulers to use and then replace them with Quilter Select rulers, because they are, without a doubt, the best non-slip rulers I have ever used, and I swear it changed the way I cut. I stopped having so much tension in my shoulders, and it just became a much easier process with less slipping and mistakes and stuff. They just were so good. So find out their favorite size. If you can't figure out what their favorite size is, I would recommend, again, a 6x12 or a 6x24. Those are the ones I use the most, or a square up ruler, a 10 inch, a 6 inch, something like that. And then the last ruler related product I want to talk about is this ruler grip. I have one of these, not the same brand I don't think, and it works so great. I mainly use it to combine my rulers, but it also just makes it more comfortable to hold and to move around. Instead of trying to get your nails underneath the ruler and try to pry it up off the table, you can just use the handle. Very great. But this one is prettier than mine is, for sure. Okay, moving away from rulers, let's look at some other tools that quilters might like. When I asked my mom for a recommendation for what to put on this list, she said these scissors. I got them for her a couple of years ago, and she loves them. They're still as sharp as the day she got them. They're great little powerhouse scissors. And while she isn't very much of a quilter, she uses them all the time for knitting and crochet, and she loves them. Another idea is quilt labels. These ones are pre-printed on some fabric, and you just cut them apart and write whatever information you want on them. These ones are individuals. You can see made for and by and all this good information. But there are also little tags that are just extra decoration that you can add to your quilt. So quilt care instructions, but in a cute way. Snuggle often. I like that. And they come in a bunch of different styles and colors, so you could look around and get a couple. If you want to pay attention to getting the most bang for your buck, look and see how many tags are included in each package, and it will vary from designer to designer. And if you don't find anything that suits their taste on this site, you can actually get personalized quilt labels done on Amazon and Etsy. So if you do a little shopping around, you might find something that's just perfect and personal and so thoughtful for your favorite quilter. This is a wool pressing mat, and I guarantee if your quilter doesn't have one yet, they want one because they are amazing. This is the set that I got for myself. It comes with this big one, which is bigger than any of the ones I've seen in quilt stores for a much better price. I mean, I have seen this little size for about the price I paid for this whole pack in a quilt store. So this is definitely a deal because you're getting all of this plus some pins, a tape measure, some snips, a little pouch. So this one I highly recommend. And the last tool I want to mention is this quick clip. It will save your quilter so much finger pain when they are pin basting their quilt. So here is a closer look. It has these little grooves right here that the safety pin will rest in, and they can pull it up without pinching or poking their fingers. So ends sore fingers, ends broken nails, reduces pin basting time, ends bunching. So really great. It's not much to look at, I admit, but it's a lifesaver. Another way to make your quilter more comfortable is to get an ergonomic cushion for their sewing chair. So if you scroll through or shop around, you'll see that there is a ton of variety in this. So you have some with lumbar supports, some without, some have gel, some have memory foam. I think this one has cooling. So a lot to look for and a good way to find something that would be specific to your quilter. Okay, let's move away from tools and talk about reading material. Okay, so there are a surprising amount of quilting novels, and it's not just like a random novel here or there. There are whole series. So this is Amish Quilt Shop Mystery, Door County Quilts, the Elm Creek Quilts. Look at that, 22 in that series. So I'm thinking if your quilter only likes super high literary sort of material, this isn't for them. But if they like a cozy mystery or a quick read, this might just be a good idea. And if you don't want to do novels, I also want to suggest a quilt magazine subscription. And the one I most dearly yearn for is a Quilt Folk subscription. This is a quarterly magazine, and I don't think it has patterns in it. I think it's mostly about like the quilters and the quilting experience and things like that. But it just is so well produced. It's like a book every quarter. So it's print only, no ads. I mean, look at this photography and the detail. Love it. Explore a new state with every issue. It is just such high quality in every issue. Now I'm going to go rapid fire with some of my other suggestions for subscriptions, and I'm going to start with Love, Patchwork, and Quilting. I believe this is a British magazine. Then there's American Patchwork and Quilting, Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting, and Make Modern. So those are just a few examples. There's plenty more quilt magazines out there, so look around. Those are just the ones I really like. A good light source is very important when you're quilting, whether you are hand sewing, you're binding, or you're at your sewing machine. You really want to be able to see things clearly to reduce your eye strain. And that's why I suggest getting an OT light. So I have a floor lamp like this for when I'm binding or appliquing or anything that I do by hand. And then in my sewing room, by my sewing machine, I have a desk lamp that I can move around and point at whatever I'm working on. Except this one has different brightness settings, which is really cool. Mine is older and it doesn't have nearly as many options. So that one's really good, but I also really like this one. It's a little bit more stylish. I really like the way it looks, but it also has more features. So it has the different color temperatures, but it also has a charger, which is really nice. And here's another charger, a plug-in charger, if you don't want to rest it on top. So not only does it look nicer, it's actually more functional than the other one. I'm willing to bet that your quilter wants to be able to display their work, so I'm going to show you a few different options to do that, starting with this wooden blanket ladder. I like this one because it's extra wide. A lot of blanket ladders that you see are a little bit more narrow, so you have to fold up your quilts a little bit tighter and you don't get to see as much of them. So a nice wide blanket ladder like this is nice. I also like this more modern one because it has a little bit of added functionality with these little shelves and adjustable feet. I have a more rustic one already, but if I was going to buy another one, I'd get this one. You can also hang them on the back of your door. Would be a really great option for like a guest room if you want to make sure they have extra quilts if they need it in the night. Then there's this really nice long hanger that you mount on the wall, and it comes in a couple different sizes. This one is 48 inches, and I think it also comes in 60 inches. So you might choose a different size based on what kind of work your quilter does, if they do more smaller things or if they do bigger things. And then I like these clips or clamps or whatever you want to call them, because I think it gives you a little bit more wiggle room in terms of size. So you could do just 2 on either side if you have a smaller piece, or you can add more in the middle if you have a larger piece. So any one of those options would be just a great way for your quilter to be able to display their work. Next up, I want to share some fun quilting t-shirts that I found. I just want to point out that these t-shirts are print on demand, which means they aren't made until you order them. So shipping might be a little bit different. You won't have your guaranteed, 2-day shipping from Amazon. It takes a little longer. So first up, in my defense, I was left unsupervised and the fabric store was open. If you see a seam ripper, now is not a good time. And here's just a fun one with quilt blocks. I still play with blocks. Over here we have Quilt Whisperer. It's just a seasonal sort of one. And then my most favorite one, I don't hoard fabric, I just shop faster than I quilt. I'm also gonna do a little shameless plug real quick. Over on my merch shop, I have some stickers. I really like the holographic ones because they're a lot of fun. I have a couple that aren't holographic. And I have t-shirts. I actually bought this one for my mom in the pink color, and she loves it. She says it's so comfortable, but she also says she gets a surprising amount of comments, a lot of thumbs up in the craft store, or she went on a cruise and she had several people who really liked it, so that one's fun. Anyway, I said it would be quick, so let's move on. Puzzles aren't an obvious quilter thing, but I have met many quilters who do enjoy a good puzzle, so I wanted to include some quilt puzzles on this list. So I'll try to go through these pretty quickly. So a barn quilt. Here is just an illustrated quilt. I love this one. I love the colors in this one. Quilt shop. Here's a cute display of quilts in front of a cottage. Here's a farm one that's more stylized. And if your quilter just likes puzzles in general, I have to recommend this brand. It's called the Magic Puzzle Company. It has a lot going for it. I love the very unique art. I like that their puzzles have some very strange shaped pieces. And at the end, there is a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a mystery. So you get one pouch that is your main puzzle, and then you get a extra little mystery that you can't open until you finish the puzzle. So a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. This is the one I own, and this is the one I want next. So I love this art style. Very cute. Now I want to start working our way up to some higher end gift ideas, and we're going to start with quilt kits. So these are basically all of the fabrics that you need to make a specific quilt top. So you can browse around. If you see one, like if you're comparing these two and you think, oh, this one is much cheaper than that one, pay attention to the title. So right here you can see mini. So it's less expensive because this is a pattern for a mini quilt. So keep an eye on that. You might not be getting a deal, you might be getting a smaller kit. I also want you to pay attention to what is included with your quilt kit, because some kits just have the fabric and they don't have the pattern. So for this website, Laundry Basket Quilts, they have the option of adding the pattern onto the price of the fabric. They also have an option for backing, which is nice. And that gets all added up into the cost of your quilt kit. Here's another good site to look around on. And as you browse and you're trying to figure out what would be good for your quilter, keep in mind the sort of colors they like to use a lot, but also keep in mind skill level, because if you're a brand new quilter and you're given this, it might be a little intimidating. So it might be like a really welcome gift, but it might take them a while to build up the courage to actually, put it together. So as you are looking, look for sort of bigger blocks or simple patterns. This one would be probably pretty easy to put together. And then once again, make sure you look and see what is included in the kit, because look down here, it says this one includes a digital pattern and not a printed one. So that might make a difference to your purchase, maybe not. And then here's another shop to check out. I especially like, for the more advanced quilters, or not advanced, but a little tiny bit more experienced quilters, I really like the idea of quilt kits with tons of fabric, because those are the quilts that I wouldn't want to have to pick out a million different colors of fabric for. So you can see if you were trying to buy all the fabric for this quilt, it would take a lot of effort to get a good mix of colors in here. And then once again, we're making sure that this does in fact include the quilt pattern. Also, if you stumble across a pre-cut quilt kit, that is the absolute best. I would absolutely adore a pre-cut quilt kit, okay? Because that means that I don't have to worry about making any mistakes when I'm cutting. But they are going to be more expensive because there has been extra labor built in to that quilt kit. If your quilter enjoys designing their own quilts, then I would highly recommend getting them a quilt design program. One of the programs I would recommend is called EQ8, and I use this one. I'm not a pro by any means. I've just sort of scratched the surface, but it's excellent to get the ideas out of your head and also to get an idea of what kind of fabric you want to use and how much you'll need to buy of it. So for instance, I was making a mini quilt a couple weeks ago, and I used EQ8 to try out a bunch of different colorways to see what I liked, and also just to have fun, because that's one of the fun things about quilting is trying out different ideas. And this is so cheap to do because I don't have to buy a bunch of fabric. I can just experiment to my heart's content. So once I figure out the colors that I like, I can go over here to print and export, and then I can hit yardage, and it'll tell me exactly how much yardage I need per color. So it's a really excellent resource for people who want to design their own quilts. I would recommend though that if you're going to get EQ8 for your quilter, you should also get some of these beginner EQ8 lesson books to help bridge that gap, because EQ8 is great, but it does have a severe learning curve. It's not very intuitive. It's helpful once you understand how to use it, but getting there can be a little difficult. The next item on the list is basically quilter jewelry. It is fine handmade silver thimbles, and they're lovely. I saw them in person at a quilt show, and they were just beautiful. And they come in a lot of different designs. Here's a peacock one, and some of them have gemstones on them. And you can custom order which gemstone is set in your thimble, so really pretty. I also really like this one, a little edgier. Anyway, like I said, I saw them in person at a quilt show, and it wasn't just thimbles. There were also different kinds of, I think there's like a wax holder, a thimble cage, scissors, chatelaines, this is a different kind of thimble, just so much to see. I do want to say though, if your quilter doesn't do a lot of handwork, then a thimble is not necessary. There are people who never pick up a hand needle, and so these are pretty, but they would just get dusty in their sewing box. Potentially, the most extravagant gift you could get your quilter would be a brand new sewing machine, because they can get up there. They don't have to be that expensive, but they can be that expensive. If you want to buy your quilter a sewing machine, but you don't know where to start, ask them what they dislike about their current machine and what they wish their perfect machine had. So they might say they want something that does embroidery, they might say they want something with a longer throat space, more stitches, more reliable, that sort of thing. And then I recommend you go and browse online. I'm going to link to this site. You can go browse and see if you can find a good deal, or you can just get a good idea of what's out there and then find something local in your area. The last few things on this list are actually going to be local things, so you're going to have to do a little bit more research in your area to find them. The first thing is a quilt class. Maybe they want to learn a new skill. You could ask around your local quilt shops to find one. You can also look for quilt retreats. Those are a lot of fun, especially if they have quilting friends that can go with them. Here's a boring one. Get their machine serviced. If they're perfectly happy with their sewing machine, but it's acting up a little bit, it might need to be serviced and cleaned and everything. And while it's not a super fun present, it is definitely a very useful one. If all else fails, I would say get a gift certificate for their favorite local quilt shop. And it's pretty easy to find out which one it is. They'll be happy to let you know. Or you could look for their favorite online quilt shop too. And again, if you are a quilter and you made it to the end of this video, let me know what I forgot or what you recommend in the comment section, and I'll add those recommendations to the description of this video.